we're talking about today is In Search of the Zimbabwean Dream. But the problems we're trying to address are all over Africa. So in fact, we're talking about In Search of the African Dream beyond Zimbabwe. Also, these problems are also happening and across the Global South. So we are also in pursuit of the Global South ambition. So that's our discussion today. In search of the Zimbabwean dream, in search of the African dream, but most significantly, in search of the Global South ambition. That's our agenda today. Now, the concentration of this book is on ideas and solutions. Why are we doing this? We are sick and tired of being sick and tired of describing problems. We're tired of that. What are the answers? What are the solutions? Let's spend a bit more time crafting solutions for Zimbabwe, crafting solutions for the continent, crafting solutions for the Global South. That's our mission today in this book. The book comes in 3 versions: Volume 1, which we launched in Bulawayo; Volume 2, which we also launched in Bulawayo as well. And those 3 books, including today's book, they're about documentation of the evolution of my thoughts, ideas, and perspectives over 40 years, from 1983, when I was in Form 3, to now. 40 years of my thoughts. Some of them I cringe when I look at what I said. For example, in Book 1, I wrote an essay. In 1986, there was an essay competition in the country which said, the one-party parliamentary system, rather than the multi-party system, is more conducive and relevant to Zimbabwe's thrust towards a socialist development. Do you agree? Give a reasoned reply. And we all agreed. Most of the young people in Form 6 agreed. Of course, we were wrong, but we agreed. And I put that essay in Book 1. Fast forward, we then opposed one-party state at university, and so on and so forth. We are documenting ideas and also a bit of autobiographical material. Volume 1 was this one. Volume 2, that one. And now we are on this one. What do we mean by thought leadership? Thought leadership is about intellectual influence through innovative and pioneering thinking. So we're very ambitious. We're saying, why can't we use ideas to change the world? Why can't we use innovative and pioneering thinking to change the world? That's what we're trying to do with thought leadership. Now, why is this important? There is a paradox, Dr. Moyo. Those with power and influence have neither ideas nor solutions. And those with ideas and solutions have neither power nor influence. I don't know where you fit in this framework, good doctor. What we're saying, why can't you have a marriage between power and influence on one end and then ideas and solutions on the other? So that the ideas and solutions can bring about a better life for our people. But we need to close that gap because in general, those with power or influence have neither ideas nor solutions. And those with ideas and solutions have neither power nor influence. And some people have neither. They have no power, they have no influence, and they have no ideas, they have no solutions. Those are the useless ones. And I'm sure they're not in Bulawayo, those ones. They're in Harare. The key message is we must read, we must write. We must document. We must succeed against all odds. We must have both academic excellence and social responsibility. I don't want to see any student leader who has a SAP who doesn't do well in school. If you are failing in school, don't be a student leader. You don't deserve to be a leader if you are mediocre intellectually. I know it's a bit harsh, but we need to make sure we balance between academic excellence and social responsibility, and also that knowledge is global. We must produce and articulate alternative forms of knowledge. We can't allow the Europeans and the Americans to be the authorities on the history of Zimbabwe, on the history of Africa. When we went to school, we used to say, according to T.O. Ranger, according to David Beach. No, we must say according to Jovo, according to Bebe, according to Moyo. Let us write our own narratives. He or she who defines you controls you. We must define ourselves as Africans. Okay? Every successful civilization has had a reading culture and a writing culture. Every successful civilization has had documentation. Documentation is divine. And we have wisdom as Africans. Ubuntu. I am because we are. We are because I am. I am because you are. I am because we all are here. Munu munu ngevani. This Ubuntu, how are we using it in business? How are we using it in running the country? How are you using it in the academy? Are you writing about it? Because we, as Africans, believe in collective humanity. We believe in shared dignity. We are more concerned about collective success as opposed to individual success. This is what we're pushing in this book. And as we do this, there's a particular context for Zimbabwe. Low production, low productivity, low capacity utilization, unprecedented industrialization, trade deficit, and also a currency crisis. These are the issues that are defining the context of the book. But more significantly, Zimbabwe has been in the news for very bad reasons. We have unprecedented corruption and looting of natural resources. We have a glaring incompetence and statecraft illiteracy. There's a difference between the first one and the second one. You know, the first one is malign. You intend to do evil. You are corrupt. You are looting. You intend to do evil. The second one, you might mean well, but you have no capacity. You have no competence. And you end up destroying the country because of lack of literacy, because of lack of capacity. You must always understand that sometimes people pray every night, they mean well, they're Christians, they're Muslims, or whatever religion, but because they are incompetent, they end up destroying the country. Clansmanship, ethno-nationalism, ethnicity, those words are there because people are saying, no, you don't use tribalism, it's an old term. But there's a lot of tribalism in Zimbabwe. Let's cut it to the chest. There's tribalism. Mugabe was a tribalist, but a bit sophisticated and finesse. This one is very crude. The current leader is a crude tribalist, a clansman. We need to fix that. The gold mafia. You heard about the gold mafia. My book will explain to you why these things happen. My book will show you why we have tribalism in Zimbabwe. My book will show you why Zunadi Moti paid the vice president and the president for the coup and paid the judge. My book will explain those farms. We don't ask the right questions. Bona has got 21 farms. We won't find out through the divorce. Why don't you ask questions? If Bona has 21, what about the two sons? How many do they have? So let's be very conservative and say President Mugabe had 40 farms. Very conservative. If the president had 40, how about his vice president? How about his ministers? How about his army general? How about his judges? Are you naive enough to think Mugabe have 40 and the judge will have 1, vice president 1, minister 1? No. In a corrupt system, if the president has 40, the vice will have, pick a number, 10, 20, not 1, certainly not 1. And also, in my book, I also review some interesting information about Mugabe had no faith in the land reform program. He says to me, Mutambara, it's in my book, read my book. Mutambara, this land reform program will be challenged by future generations. 50 years from now, they'll be sitting and say, those guys in the year 2000 passed out the land to themselves. We are not there. Let's reverse this thing. Now, if Mugabe was of that mindset, you know what he did? He doesn't have a 99 lease. He bought those farms. They have title deeds. And for the investigative journalists here, anybody in this system has a title deed. Not 99 leases. That's for war vets and some middle managers and some middle army. Any minister, any judge, any commander of consequence is holding on to title. I explain in my book how it was done. You want to know how it was done? During Gono, during burning. Okay? What they'll do first, they'll chase the farmer from the farm, and the farmer will run away, go to Australia, go to New Zealand, go to Harare, and live in a shack. They can't pay school fees for their kids. They're desperate, they're destitute. And then they follow the farmer 6 months later or 8 months later. Mr. Farmer, Madam Fireman, how much is your farm worth? Oh, my farm is so expensive. Our farm is $15 million. $15 million? We'll never get that. We'll never pay you compensation anyway. Well, how about 4 million? How about 4? I mean, you want 15? I got 4. Now, the white farmer is desperate. He's destitute. She's destitute. She can't pay school fees for her kids. And you then go 4 million. They grab the 4 million, they sign away the title, they keep quiet. Because they don't want to be identified as part of the ZANU-PF patronage. I have the evidence, it's in my book. How did they get the 4 million? You go to Mutambara, how can they get 4 million? Aha! How do you get $4 million? Let's bet. You know, under Gono, let's assume that the official rate is 20, 1 to 20. The payroll is 1 to 200. Those are the numbers. If you start with 10,000 US dollars, 10,000 US dollars of your own, you go to the payroll market, you buy bond notes or zip dollars using payroll rate. You take that and go to Gono. Hey, Gono, here I come. I'm General. I'm Grace. I'm Gabi. Can you sell me US dollars at the official rate? You buy the US dollars at the official rate. You go back to the market. You buy bond notes. If you just do it 3 times, you can convert 10,000 US dollars into 2 million US dollars in a week with no work. Ask them. Anyone close to Gono, anyone close to the system could do that. Just at 10,000, you can convert it into 2 million US dollars by burning. And what we do with the $2 million? We pay for your farm. So right now you think these guys have 99 leases. They've got title. Now, here's the story. When Gordon Moore becomes president, he can't touch those farms. They got title. Either you believe in title or you don't. So these guys, these women, these men are safe under any regime because they hold on to title. And Mugabe said that to me in not so many words. Anyway, so those Bona farms, for now we know it's a fact because it was in the court papers. But guess what? The Second Republic, so-called, knew about the 21 farms. Sure, they did. Anyway, in my book, I explain all these things. The SI, why it happened, and then the helicopters. My book gives you context. My book gives you the rationale why we're having problems in the country. And again, we're emphasizing the currency. We need to make sure we have reserves to back the currency. We need fiscal consolidation. I'm emphasizing solutions, what we can do around the currency. We can talk about that more in our discussions. We have political problems. We had the coup d'etat in 2017. We had the fraudulent election in 2018. So the regime in Zimbabwe is founded on a coup d'etat. You can't build democracy on the foundation of a coup d'etat. So we have a problem of illegitimacy, we have a problem of lack of leadership and statesmanship. Now we have elections coming up. Job Sikala is in prison. Ngaruvume is locked up. How can you have an election when leaders of the opposition are locked up? How can you have an election when the voters' roll is not accessible to the opposition? Also, the voters' roll is in shambles. You've heard this week. People go and look for their names, they can't find them. And 3 days ago, on the 31st of May, they passed that patriotic bill, closing the democratic space. How can we have a free and fair election within this context? My book explains the context. We must build governance, we must develop legitimacy, we must work on macroeconomic stability. This is the vision that we need to be pushing for. I'm emphasizing on solutions. We want a peaceful, democratic, and prosperous nation. There is no second republic in Zimbabwe. There is no new dispensation in Zimbabwe. A second republic will be democratic, peaceful, and prosperous. It doesn't exist. A new dispensation is earned and not declared. And we need to develop this shared national vision and also a competitive national brand. What is our national vision across the political divide? What is our strategy to take us from where we are to the promised land of our vision? And then execution, execution, execution. Doing is more important than dreaming. Where is our implementation matrix? Who is going to do what? When are they doing it? Where are the resources coming from? How are you going to measure success or lack of it? How are you going to monitor and evaluate? How are you going to feed back? These are the solutions we're proffering as we move on. And we have what we call the hexagon of branding in those 5 areas. We need solutions to our country, a competitive identity for Zimbabwe, to develop Zimbabwe's reputation in order to improve our global competitiveness. Why ideas and solutions? We in civic society, we in the academy, we in industry, we in the political parties must offer an alternative vision and a compelling strategy. It's not enough to criticize and describe problems. We must provide actionable, implementable, timelined, and well-resourced plans. And then, of course, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. We need redemptive paradigms for Zimbabwe, for Africa, and for the Global South. I'm trying to encourage Dr. Moyo here that as we criticize, let us also have our solutions. They might be imperfect, but let's have some answers. Okay? And the book structure is a rocky start to the GNU. You get a bit of that. Our agenda, the economy, political reforms, and the constitution. We did well on the economy. We did well on the constitution. We failed on political reforms. Mugabe and the liberation struggle. I got along with Mugabe. I didn't sell out Gordon. I didn't sell out. But I got along with him. Why? 4 reasons. We spent a lot of time together. Why did he like me? Number 1, Mugabe was an Anglophile. He loved the British. And I went to Oxford, so he had a soft spot for me because I'm Oxonian. Number 2, Mugabe was an academic chauvinist. He loved education. I got a doctorate from Oxford. And he liked that bit that this man went to school. Number 3, I'm a history buff. I love history. Mugabe likes telling stories. So that's it. Tell me about Joshua Ngomo. Tell me about Tongogara. Tell me about Ndabaning Sitole. And then he would sing, literally sing. He was very good with old stuff. His current memory of current matters was very poor, but the old stuff was great. So he liked telling me these stories. So we used to get along fine. That's number 3. Number 4, why did he like me? Because I was principled. If it's a yes, it's a yes. If it's a no, it's a no. I don't change when I go outside the room. Some of my friends, some of his friends would change. His friends will change. He will tell you who they are. With me, once I decide, no Mugabe, it's a no. It's no. Yes, Mugabe, it's a yes. It's a yes. And he liked that. Because then you can make decisions. In book 2, I described how we started the GNU. And Mbeko was very upset when one of us was changing. And he says, he banged the table, but anyway, did book 2. So that was an interesting, then the end game, we'll see a bit of that. Running themes. The things we need, Gordon Moyo, are Pan-Africanism as a theme. We need to work on that. Regional integration, we need that. African agency. Dr. Moyo has done work on African agency. We need to be in charge of many things. Look at COVID. We are not in charge. African agency is a major theme, and Dr. Moyo has written about this stuff. The discipline of gratitude, I won't say much about this, but simply we are saying grateful people are happy people, not the other way around. If you are grateful, you are happy. In fact, I have a fictional conversation with Mugabe there where I was going to confront him and give him 2 quotations. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher if I can. Quote number 1. Quote number 2, I don't know anyone who could run this country better than me. Then I said to Mugabe, who said these 2 phrases? I'm sure I say, I said it. Now, the first one was a very humble boy at Kutama, who could not even be certain that could be a teacher. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher if I can. This arrogant man now in the year 2004, I don't know anyone in this country who would have run this country better than, how dare you say this, Robert? You don't know anybody. Anyway, he was no longer grateful. And that's why he taken out by a coup d'etat. Grateful people are happy people. Don't be too greedy. Be ambitious, but be grateful. Be thankful. Thank Allah, thank God, thank Vadzimu, thank whatever, thank your atheism, whatever you believe in. Be grateful. Preserve the asset. Technology is your friend. Artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, chatbots. Don't fight these technologies. Use them to solve your problems. Don't fight AI. Ask yourself, how can I use AI to solve my problems? How can I use ChatGPT to develop education? Once technology has been developed or invented, you can't uninvent it. The physicist is here. Professor John is here. You can't uninvent the technology. You can work with it. Technology is a tool, it's a double-edged sword, but it's your friend for whatever you're trying to do. But these are the themes. Just to dramatize regional integration. Spepa, good to see you, Spepa. Regional integration. These are not economies. Is that your country there? That's a Mickey Mouse economy. Zimbabwe is not an economy, it's a Mickey Mouse economy. South Africa, Botswana, 2.4 million people. 41, these are not functional economies. We must talk about SADC, 380 million people. We must talk about the TFTA, bigger economies, 830 million people. Those are economies now. China, 1.4 billion people. India, the US, these are economies. And when we work together as Africans, we can marshal and master 1.35 billion people. Collective GDP, $2.5 trillion. Can you imagine if I was to rock up and say, here come, I'm the African. I speak on behalf of 1.3 billion people, and behind me, I have a GDP of $2.5 trillion. The Americans will listen to me, not out of love, out of economics. The Chinese will respect me. But if you go in Zimbabwe, you get shortchanged. So we need to work together through that, not this. This is global GDP. Do you see Zimbabwe? Do you see South Africa? Do you see Africa? Yes, in the corner there's a little Africa. So we must go exactly to Africa. Zimbabwe is not there. How can a non-existent country negotiate with China? You don't exist and you want to even make a deal with China. You can't, you're not on the map. Go and look, you're not there. There's an Africa there. There's China. There's US. There's Germany. There's Spain. I can see the other people. I don't see Botswana. I don't see Swaziland or Eswatini. Which means, please don't go and talk to China. You're too small to be consequential. Go as Africa. 1.3 billion people. $2.5 trillion. Then you can make sense. I'm dramatizing the importance of these things and also regional clusters. Do you know if we do diamonds as Botswana, South Africa, and DRC, we control diamonds. Platinum, we can control just us in South Africa. Okay? Revelations in the book, I've already talked about arbitrage. Arbitrage is where you have official and parole. Do you know what it means, David? Everyone is now a criminal. A pastor, if you give a pastor $500 US and they want to change it, would they go to the official rate? They go to the parole. And you've criminalized the pastor. You've criminalized the bishop. So the problem with criminalizing everyone, we end up saying, everyone is a criminal, so I can even go and steal, because it's now relative now. The pastor is a criminal, is changing on the parole bucket. So we're all criminals, so no one is responsible. Arbitrage has the danger of making everyone a criminal. But more importantly, it's a looting tool. And I showed you earlier on how farms were bought using arbitrage. And I've told you that the title is, these guys have titled these 99 year leases are for the if you have a 99 lease, you are unimportant. Please, war vet, small soldier, small businessman, with your 99 year lease, you are unimportant. Important people are holding title. Know that. And Mugabe's views revealed, struggle. Now, I'm going to move so we can get more of a discussion. When we say documentation, it's not just writing words. We need pictures. We need videos. We need other artifacts. That's how you record history. And in this book, we try to do just that. The book is 968 pages with 8 sections of pictures to entertain you when the reading gets boring. Without pictures, it's 720 pages because they don't put in page numbers on the picture pages. So it's 720 pages of written stuff and that. And so you can see us there with President Zuma and the inclusive government. The Chinese were able to express to the Chinese that we don't want you to get raw materials. Come and do beneficiation with that. But of course, when we left government, the other guys went back to the old model. That's my wife, Jackie. She's a rock star in her own right. She's doing much better than me. You know, someone said in Harare, oh, Mutambara, you married your equal. No, I married my superior. That woman is a CEO, and she's sitting on 3 boards. So I'm here rocking up, but I'm married to my superior. So the superior is speaking there. But I'm saying we need to respect our spouses and give them space. Sometimes they're our superiors, you know. Then unity in the inclusive government, you see Mashakada and all that. My friend there, I've explained why we got along. No selling out there was nothing to sell. we got along for the 4 reasons I gave you. And I got a lot of information. A lot of information. Mugabe's views on Chitepo, for example. You know, some people think Chitepo was trying to be like Mugabe. Mugabe tells me, when I went to Ghana to teach, I was trying to raise money so I can go to London and become a lawyer like Chitepo. He looked up to Chitepo, Mugabe. But he never told you because he wanted you to believe he's the alpha and omega of the revolution. But he really respected Chitepo. Count number 2, he doesn't believe that theory that Chitepo was killed by the Rhodesians. He suspects his own friends. But strategically, he doesn't talk about it because he made an alliance with them for power. But privately, he was very angry because he was very close to John Mataure. John Mataure was killed at the hands of ZANU. Togogara says in the court, John Mataure was killed at the hands of ZANU, close quote. John Mataure was the political commissar. Now, if you kill your own political commissar, what will stop you from killing the chairman? What's the difference between political commissar and chairman? Anyway, you find Mugabe's views on that in there. He did not believe any of that stuff, but he was a Machiavellian operator who believed in power and nothing else. And he also a very nasty appetite for rumors. You know, when the Prime Minister was having his period of gallivanting and married that woman for 7 days, Lokadia, I went to do a ballot with Mugabe. And Mugabe says to me, Konyaya Lokadia ya papi. And Mr. President, you got the CIO. There's nothing I can tell you about Lokadia that you don't know. I wanted just to check. Anyway, lots of rumors and rumor guzzling. Now we signed the Constitution, and those boys there. Again, hey, paper, see the book. Where's paper? Yes, paper. He was running the country. Now he's useless and empty, but he was running the country. Paper, country. And Brother John Como, I'm saying to you, when we write history, we need pictures. A picture speaks volumes. You know, we need videos. We need artifacts. The speaker there, and the wedding, and in the corner there we can see Gordon Moyo. He was the man behind that wedding. Was it fraudulent? It was okay. Now it was a Chamisa there, and Madam Coupe, Mafu. We were documenting all these things in pursuit of history. And then we have soccer, the World Economic Forum, ways to go there, Clinton and them. History is documented. Oh, Mujuru. Very interesting. I'm one of the few people who saw the dead body of Mujuru. It was skeletons, no flesh. I saw it. There was a chemical used. And I described it. I don't want to preempt my book. But I've got some interesting stories. And also Mugabe's reaction to the death is in the book. Edgar Tekere in Lacoste. And that one, we used to supervise him. So if you want to know whether there's a good president or not, ask me, the supervisor, the teacher. I mean, you can never be better than a teacher, can you? Can you really do better than a teacher? I was the deputy prime minister. and the principal. So there was Mugabe, Tsvangirai, and myself as the supervisors of these young boys. So they're running countries, but we are the referees. I think God didn't agree. Anyway, again, lots of views about the president. Oh yeah, they're in there. There are lots of views. Yeah. But read the book. Not very charitable, but they're in there. And then G40. And then printing, banning. And that one too in there in the book. So anyway, we're saying that these pictures tell a story. The coup was in the making. The coup was in the making. We just didn't know it. Gordon, you were sleeping at the wheel. The coup was being cooked. And that's President Chamisa there, and Maduku, all these things. Now, the interesting one here is this one. We attended the inauguration of the coup president. After the coup, Mnangagwa was made president. Tsvangirai, Chamisa, and myself went there. You have to ask us, why did we go? Read my book, and I will explain why we went. And there, Chamisa is saying, congratulations. And I'm like, yes, let's do this. Anyway, we can't hide the pictures. We just need to explain. If we got it wrong, we explain why we got it wrong. But here we are congratulating the coup leader at his presidency. Now we're fighting, of course, but this is the lunch after that. Pictures tell a story more than words. This is Oxford, and all this is UJ. It's very important that we understand all these things. And then the old man dies. Again, we went to bury the old man. You can see Chamisa there. I'm going to just play, I'm getting to the end now. I want to just play a bit video so we can see again the other type of documentation we are pushing for. The Constitution was our major achievement. And a bit of tourism, and then we stop, we kill it.
The Constitutional Select Committee led the process, holding public hearings and consultations over the making of a new constitution for Zimbabwe. 2 all-stakeholders conferences were held, and the draft was produced amid power struggles among the political players. The intervention of principles to the global political agreement gave way to the referendum.
We don't write a constitution for today. We write a constitution for posterity, for future generations.
As a country, we have invested so much in this process, in both financial and material terms, if indeed in time terms.
We are the ones who agreed that no, we shall not have Kariba. We must now have a people-driven constitution.
This set the stage for approval by the electorate, parliament, and now it has been signed into law.
I think we can all say today is a great day for our country. For the first time in the history of this country, we have a constitution that we've authored on our own without the facilitation of foreigners. This is a dramatic improvement from Lancaster House. I think that is what we should celebrate. Anyway, we can see that later on. Now, Dr. Gordon Moyo, am I done now with volume 4? Is this the end of my writing career? Certainly not. The next 2 projects for me is my book on artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, ChatGPT. That book is coming through. I just submitted my manuscript. It's going to be 1,000 pages. So the volumes get bigger with time. It's an electrical engineering book. I was joking with Professor G.O that let's write these things in there. So basically, that's my next project. Then the second project is this one. Now, this one is very interesting. The A.G.O. Mutambara story from 1640 AD to the present. What I've done is I've done research 10 generations above my father. And then come down to my great-grandfather, grandfather, father. Then on the mother side, the same. Then mother and father meet. They go to the chapel and get married. And then they produce first daughter, second daughter, third daughter, and the fourth I'm born. And then it becomes autobiographical. So this is, there will be no ideas in this book. There will be no solutions. I'll be just telling a story. unlike volume 1 to 3. No fancy ideas, no motivation to change the world, just a good old story. History of the Mutambara people in my history. Starting from Bire. These are my ancestors. Barambab, right down to number 10. So number 9 is the first Mutambara, my great-grandfather. Then comes my grandfather, then comes my father. I'm number 12 in that line, right? And that's how I calculate. And that's the man who is the Mutambara, great-grandfather, Mutambara number 1. Now that man had 12 wives and 43 children. I wish I could get back to that generation. And that's the tree for my great-grandfather. And that's my grandfather. He went down to 2 wives now. And then, of course, my father took 1. I wish to go back to the 12. Anyway, this book is about, my father went to Fort Hare, graduate. And then my mother was a primary school teacher. They got married in 62. Something happened. The village kids are stuck in the village. You can see I'm passionate, I'm hungry. I have no food. What happened? Read the 4th volume, which will come in many years to come. And those are my sisters. We are stuck in the village. You know, I stayed in Mutambara village for 11 years and going to Mutari twice in 11 years. You know, Mutari is very close to Chibanimani, but I had no opportunity to go to town. Only twice in 11 years. I was rural bound. I was in the village. Anyway, but guess what? Out of those things, 4 out of 4 PhD. PhD biology, PhD economics, PhD pharmacy, PhD yours truly from the village. What happened? That's the story. And out of the 4, 2 out of 4 professors. The other one is the professor at Rhodes. The other one is the professor who is here with us today. I'm dramatizing the importance of Ubuntu, because my father was dead, and these people were able to raise us to become 4 out of 4 PhDs. Anyway, that is the material for the future book, Lord. We must stick to volume 3 for now. And as I summarize, please let us be clear on what we want, how we're going to solve it. Under governance, legitimacy, macroeconomic stability, all these things must be done. And we must write, we must document. And as I conclude, Dr. Gordon Moyo, we must take a personal interest in the success of Zimbabwe. We must take a personal interest in the success of Africa. You'll never be respected as an African until Africa has done well as a continent. You could be a superstar journalist, superstar lawyer, superstar engineer, CEO. That is nothing as long as the people of Zimbabwe are not doing well. And I always end with my own experience. I used to go to the World Economic Forum. You saw Bill Clinton there and Bill Gates. And I used to talk. You know, I love talking, right? They say, where are you from? I say, I'm coming out from MIT, NASA, rocket science. No. Where are you? What's your country? I refuse to answer. I continue describing myself. I'm coming out from McKinsey and Company out of Chicago. I'm MIT trained. Which country are you from? Eventually I say, I'm from Zimbabwe. They're, come on, Mutambara. You're from Zimbabwe. If you are that smart, how come your country is messed up? If you are that smart, how come there's cholera in Zimbabwe? Shame on you, Mutambara. You are no rock star.
A real honor to be here. It's a difficult task I have. To tell any lawyer and politician that they must be short is almost impossible, but I will try. Arthur, I think I first met you in 2004. That is my first actual memory of meeting Arthur. He attended a critically important meeting of the MDC in Harare, where these strains were first starting to manifest themselves. Unfortunately, despite the wise input to that meeting, the council was not listened to, and as history shows, not even a year later, the MDC split, and with it were destroyed many of the hopes and aspirations of Zimbabweans. And it set back the struggle for democracy. I didn't have much more to do with Professor Mutambara until the time of the unity government. And then, of course, we worked together very closely during those 5 years. And I came to greatly appreciate his role in the GNU. It, of course, was a very tricky arrangement involving 3 political parties and lots of politicians with massive egos. And yet we had to stabilize the country, we had to write a new constitution, and we had to do critically important work, in my case, in education, which was in a disastrous state. And my own experience of Professor Mutambara is that he listened very closely to the issues as I described them to him and the problems, and he did all in his power to facilitate dialogue, particularly between me and Robert Mugabe. As you all know, Robert Mugabe and I had a pretty checkered history together. And so it was important that there be a person like Professor Mutambara who could be a bridge. And he was a very effective bridge in that. And so to that extent, whatever achievements we made in the education sector, this man played a critical role in that. But I want to turn to your writings, sir. And one of the things that you have stressed about writing and documentation. What is true not just about this country, but about every country on earth, is that tyrants love it when people do not write about history. Because when people don't document, when they don't write particularly contemporary history, tyrants can manufacture their own versions of events. And that's why contemporary writing like this is so critical for any nation's development. Let me use 2 examples. Just down the road here is the Bulawayo Legal Project Center, and in the early 1990s, working with others, we started work on documenting the Gukuruhundi. Although the Gukuruhundi had only ended some 3 years prior to the commencement of that work, I was astonished by how much information had already dissipated, how hard it was to get our hands on information. That led to intense negotiations with the Catholic bishops to get their contemporaneous documentation written by priests and Catholic workers in 1983, what they documented at the time. And that information proved to be the most critical information in establishing the truth about that portion of our history. And that is, sir, why your book is so important, because very few people have actually documented what happened in the last 10 years, what happened in the last 15 years. These books, all 3 of these books, do that task. And they provide irrefutable evidence of both the successes and the failures of that period. And so it behoves all of us to study these books so that we all learn the lessons they teach. And hopefully we can craft for ourselves a better nation in future. And that history continues. Let me conclude with these words about, for example, what has happened in this city this week with this scandalously defective voters' roll, and thousands of people deliberately left off that voters' roll. Now, what do tyrants do in that situation? They blunder their way through it. They make the assumption that no one will document it, so that come the time when the actual rigging takes place, there's no evidence. So this task of documenting history contemporaneously has to continue. And I hope that despite the fact that you're in South Africa, that you will do that. Let me end on a humorous note. I now have 7 grandchildren, And I've just started reading books to them that I perhaps read 20 years ago. And one of the books I've started reading in the last 2 weeks is Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. And I think that Professor Mutambara has learned from J.K. Rowling, because if you study his books very carefully, they start small and they get progressively bigger. And so I think when he gets to volume 7 or 8, we're going to have 2,000-page books. But I hope you do that. And I wish you all the very best for this venture. I've just received the book. I haven't studied it in detail, but I have absolutely no doubt that it is going to be a critically important contribution to us understanding our history.
I wish to congratulate you, my brother, Ago, because that's what they call you. And a few weeks ago, I visited Chimanimani to bury the grandmother of my daughter-in-law. And I saw a very beautiful mansion. And people, they told me, that's Ago Mutambara's mansion, that. Totally in a reserve. And I admire him putting up. Yesterday, I asked him, how do you maintain that? But he didn't answer that question very well. Now, I want to congratulate you for completing the 3rd volume of your books on ideas and solutions in search of the elusive Zimbabwean dream. When we talk about this elusive dream, I'm 80 years old now, and I don't know whether that dream will be realized in my lifetime. If it is not realized, those that hear me and are alive realize the dream. Realize the Zimbabwean dream. I just want to make just 4 points very quickly. Generating ideas. Professor Mutambara has generated ideas in these books. The leader does not need to be most inventive person on the team. But as a leader, you need to release the potential for generating ideas that exist in all individuals and teams. This will help in both achieving a vision and solutions. What am I saying? I'm saying ideas cannot come from one person. Everyone sitting in this room has got ideas. And if the leadership will succeed, they must succeed in persuading everybody to bring ideas to the table. The next point that I would like to speak to the leaders here is promoting creativity. One is to actively promote creativity by, for example, rewarding people and lowering any creative barriers and removing blockages and refusing to tolerate conceptions such as when somebody has an idea, you begin to say, it will never work. Sometimes you say, if your idea was good, somebody would have done it already. Or those and their equivalents, the 2 examples I've given. Now, also recognizing consensus can be the enemy of creativity. We just want to agree. And because you want to agree, you are saying, you are pushing people to agree, and you are killing creativity in individuals. I am trying to speak to my leaders here about this kind of thing. Now, if a creative idea is proposed to us, we must always consider it. We must always consider it. Now, there is another thing that my leaders here today, including Professor Mutambara, need to do: stimulating ideas. As I have said already, there are many people sitting in this room with ideas. If you wait for ideas to come, they probably will not come. I propose that an ideas meeting be called. But most of those who would attend such a meeting would be relatively dumb. To prevent such a happening, one must insist on 2 rules. First, everybody coming to the ideas meeting must come to the meeting with 2 or 3 new ideas, which can be as far-fetched as they like. That means to say a dream that may not even come to pass. I'm not talking about Animal Farm. Now, secondly, nobody should be allowed to shoot ideas down in flames. Because the reason we have these problems in our country, we believe that others own ideas, and then we begin to shoot down some other people's ideas. I think that it is important not to shoot down other people's ideas or rubbish them before they are discussed. The important issue is to get ideas on the table and to encourage all to believe in their own powers of idea generation. All of us, I believe. The last point that I want just to put to the leaders, Professor Mutambara included. Professor Mutambara is putting ideas on the table. Let an ideas meeting be called to discuss these ideas and other ideas that will be brought to the table by other participants. Otherwise, Mutambara's ideas would simply die in the covers of those books. So the issue is closed. Now, and the Zimbabwean dream, that's elusive, would really be elusive indeed. I am trying to write a book. I am trying. And Professor Mutambara keeps phoning me. How far is the book? The reason I want to write this book is because of the 14 years I spent in prison, in Rhodesian prisons. No one has ever recorded anything that happened inside. I am trying to do that. And I realize that in the many years I spent in prison, very few people now exist who were my fellow prisoners, fellow detainees. And if I can count them to 5, I would be very lucky. Otherwise, many of them have passed away. And I'm glad that when I spoke to him, he said, when you finish, talk to me. I will hold him to that. He must do something about this book because it's of national interest as to what was happening. I have too many stories. Some people died in prison, and some were really killed. And I remember one died here in this prison here, Gray Street, aren't you? Gray Street prison. Somebody died there when I and Stephen Komo were just looking at him. He was kicked and died. There are so many things that we need to tell. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States of America, once said, and I quote, "The best way to predict the future is to create it. Let us join the train of ideas to realize the Zimbabwean dream."